Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today is another amazing day where I am continuing to feel better and better health-wise. And so monetarily, I expect the same thing to begin occurring. It's just a matter of time at this point. As far as my overall health, recently I completed the 14-day Fleet Feet push-ups challenge, and I started out trying to do regular push-ups, but as with before, I wasn't able to perform a full range of motion for that push-up effort. And so I changed my approach to wall push-ups, and then I began using door frames so that I could lower myself substantially all the way through the full range of motion, even dipping down almost into the negative, and then doing a complete push-up from that point. And so I was completing 50 of those at a time, and what I would do is stand with my feet pointing straight forward, and as I would lower myself into the, or I guess, I guess it's still lowering, but as I would lower myself into the door frame, I would keep my feet on the ground, and so my heels would stay on the ground and my ankles would be the pivot point, which was a tremendous stretch for my calves. And so I feel like that added some additional flexibility and also rehab to my calves from all of these recent run sessions. So strengthening my upper body, in addition to saving me a couple of injuries, has been a really integral part of continuing this journey of being able to run. Just as one example, the other day when I was at my off-trail effort at Government Canyon, I was moving along pretty quickly, and then one of my shoes caught on some of the slick rock, and that caused me to fall forward a little bit. I was able to catch myself with my other step. However, it was easier to throw my hands out and catch myself based on the angle that I was on, the angle that I was traversing, and the momentum that was moving with me at that time. So I threw my arms forward, caught myself basically from face planting, and I recognized immediately that had I not been doing these upper body strength efforts, then it might have been just like the last time when I was doing a similar thing in Big Bend, where I was just moving along on the trails and then my feet got caught and I fell forward. However, in Big Bend, what had happened when I fell forward is I nearly fractured my wrist, and it took months to feel better, to recover from that situation. In fact, for a while, I couldn't even pick up more than 3 to 5 pounds with that arm because my wrist was so injured. So in the past, when it comes to addressing physical strength, I've talked with my parents about using things like kettlebells and weights and books, and doing counter push-ups, wall push-ups, even these door frame push-ups. And I oftentimes was curious about whether knee push-ups was of any benefit. It is, but it's not the same as incorporating full scale range of motion workouts. So just like with running, when I started running, I basically started running, and I really should have started walking probably miles at a time first. Now, I occasionally will travel here and there and had traveled here and there in the past, and so I would walk numerous miles, hike numerous miles, but every so often I would become injured even from that. Like I would get a blister, or I would feel very uncomfortable the next day or 2 days after. And that all was contingent upon many things, including, how I slept, what kind of nutrition I was taking on, and all kinds of scenarios. But overall, again, upper body strength was something that prevented me from accomplishing some of the things that other people in my group were able to do. I remember one time we hiked into a place called Panther Springs, which is behind a certain area in the national park. And generally, it helps to know people who work at the park in order to get to some of these areas. But we went to a special place back there, and there was an area that we all were tasked with climbing up a certain place to see the final view. And I wasn't able to climb up. I didn't have the upper body strength that was required to do much of anything. In fact, prior to last year and the year before, it was really hard for me to even hang on to a bar or a branch, a tree limb and support my full body weight for more than about 3 to 5 seconds. And now I've found that I can do that for upwards of 30 seconds all the way up to a minute. But the main thing that I am constantly struggling with, no matter what I had been eating, was my default weight. My default weight has come down substantially since completing the 40-day fasting effort. And at the same time, at the end of the 40-day fasting effort, I found that my long-term benefits were slightly reduced compared to what I had expected. So I feel like I'm going to have to do another few fasting sessions to just to temper my body in certain ways. But more than that, the constant application of upper body mobility exercises is something that I want to incorporate and train my upper body with a lot less frustration and a lot less injury than I had done with my lower body. Whereas, as I've mentioned on this channel, I've constantly had some type of a circumstance that is pretty much like a not a showstopper, but definitely a challenge to work through during the rest of these efforts when I'm trying to train for something like, let's say, for an example, an upcoming marathon. So having a blister on your toe is one thing, but having a blister on your toe at the start of a 26.4 mile endeavor is something that could be quite uncomfortable. And so I've smartly applied rest breaks in between my training sessions, and I've continued to maintain my distance while also distance training, while also trying different approaches that included wearing different shoes, for an example, and trying to find the right thing, the right combination of socks, shoes, and recovery for my feet, including basically foot massages and long soaks in Epsom salt. And so those are the things that I've been doing. If you've been watching this channel, you see I try to multitask. Sometimes I record parts of what I'm doing. I talk about the weird aspects that seem to present themselves. And I also basically try to highlight examples so that we can all see that we can work through a lot of these adversities and challenges. And some people will continue to try to throw shade, and that's fine. It just helps the light shine brighter. And some people will continue to claim they don't know what the heck that I'm talking about, but they'll continue to watch every video. And that makes me feel like there are people that are truly supportive. They just don't know necessarily how to express themselves. The other thing that I've found that has really helped with being able to improve my running economy and efficiency, and actually just the time that I have to accomplish these things, is to distance myself from the conversations that continue to take energy rather than the conversations that help to share positive, uplifting energy. So, if you're watching this channel, you might find that it's a mixed bag because I'm sharing some struggles that I'm having. I'll tell the story as it is, and that does include quite a bit of adversity and struggle, especially during these last few years, particularly past COVID. And a lot of people won't really give me credit for telling these stories. However, I feel like I needed to present some of this information because even if you were to go to, just as an example, the national park, Big Bend National Park, and stay at the lodge at the hotel that's there, there are several rooms. There's an entire section of rooms that has my photographs in there. The photographs are being used with my consent. However, the way that they were supposed to be displayed was that the pictures would be on the wall and they would have my credits at the bottom of the picture because that was the agreement. It turns out that the hotel went ahead and changed the way that they display those pictures, and they put some matting on the pictures that borders the picture just in a way that it covers up all the credentials of the person who took the image, who basically did the work to share those images. The only reason that my pictures are in the lodge over there in Big Bend National Park is because for many years, the pictures that were in those rooms were pictures of vegetation from other states, animals from other states. And I felt like Big Bend was beautiful enough to be represented by their own imagery. And so I suggested it to management. Management agreed that this would be something that would be highly beneficial and that could possibly help to benefit all parties involved, because if my pictures were on the walls and they had, for an example, information leading back to pointing to the author of the pictures, maybe those pictures could be sold by said author. But again, my work was covered up, and even at the border crossing at Boquillas in Big Bend National Park, the sign, the information sign, the long-term exhibit, informative sign that's put right at the border crossing has my image on it. The image was printed without giving credit to who the image was taken by. And so later on, the park superintendent put a brass plaque on the informative sign to say the name of who took the picture. The last time I was there, it looked like someone had pried off that the name tag, and I was afraid of that. And later on, as time went by, I showed a story where a picture of mine, coincidentally from Big Bend National Park, was used in an El Paso museum exhibit. Those pictures were supposed to have credentials on them, but once again, the credit wasn't given to where the credit was due. So I'm happy to have my images used. I'm happy to boastfully say I did that work. And at the same time, sometimes it feels like I don't have anything to show for it, because right now it's just my word versus anyone in the world who doesn't know me any differently for having accomplished those things. And so I'm putting in a lot of work where it's like, okay, well, whether I took pictures or not, I can't really prove those things, even though I could, because you can look at the original image files that I have on my backed up hard drives and things that are going to that have already become vastly obsolete in these worlds. And I have evidence that I have been training consistently and constantly to accomplish completing the distance of a marathon in a given time frame. So I do have evidence of that. I just don't have evidence of having completed that race yet. That comes a little bit later. If you stay tuned, you'll be able to see what I was able to accomplish, and I'll tell you a little bit more as far as how I did it properly and efficiently. But I've got to for sure say that upper body strength plays a lot more into running, which you would think of as just all lower body, than you might imagine. Think about running for 26 miles. Think about running for 6 miles. Your arms are swinging, your legs are moving, you're breathing, you're doing all kinds of things at the same time. Your joints are moving, any kind of bone aggravations that you might have had might be rubbing constantly. And so to just do something like this without training would be possibly detrimental unless you were blessed with being in great health already. And once you're in great health, you can do something like run 6 miles or 26 miles or further even. But it really helps to be physically sound to begin with. Now, here on this channel, we talk about the tripod of being well. There's physical health, there's mental health, And then there's also spiritual health. And so I touch on a lot of these topics here, and that's probably why so many people continue to subscribe and why this channel has an uptick to where it seems like we're well on track to reach 1,000 subscribers, possibly by the end of, I would say the next year for sure. And no matter what the progress is or how any of this happens, all I've got to say is, with and without the opportunity to communicate this insight with you, I've had a great time improving my health and improving my overall outlook. And at the same time, it still hasn't made me directly any kind of additional monetary wealth. And so the birds here have been a little more hungry than usual. We're not able to replenish the bird feeders. The animals that come here for food sometimes come up a little bit hungrier than they were in the past. And that's something that's happening globally. I'm just trying to tend to the environments that I've been given stewardship of. And I think all of us should be able to continue trying to accomplish the same thing. Some of us have the opportunity to donate to different charitable causes through our employers, and some of us will do that and still not tend to the yards that we actually have in our own stewardship. So hopefully, as we start to share all of these insights and recognize just how rewarding it is and how much additional energy it returns to help others, including the wildlife and vegetation that's in our own yards, for an example, in our own proximities, then maybe we will all learn to chip in and encourage one another to succeed by sharing all kinds of insights like I try to do on this channel. You know, it's not just I'm talking about running or, you know, healing a blister or upper body strength or what have you. Sometimes we're talking about germinating mountain laurel seeds. Sometimes we're talking about trying to harvest and encourage tomato plants to grow and fruit more efficiently. Sometimes we're talking about being creative and sharing thoughts in a constructive manner. So if you like those kinds of variations of training that are all going hopefully in the direction of positivity, I hope that you actually click on subscribe and that you click on the comments area and help us to engage in some meaningful conversation. If you see someone being rude in the comments area, please don't hesitate to say something, but be kind, because a lot of people, again, it's like some people don't have the wherewithal or capabilities to speak in a different manner because they don't know any different. Until someone learns something, they can't actually do something. Like until I learned to run, I couldn't really run. Now, learning to run our mouths is pretty easy to do, but learning to speak in a way that actually conveys insight, that's a whole other thing. The first thing it takes to do that, though, is to listen. I'm giving you some time because some people are just letting this play. They're not really listening. Those kind of people usually will just do the opposite of anything that they talked with you about. Like if you talked with someone and said, hey, these chemical fertilizers and things for our yards, they're damaging. And, you know, we can all agree on that. And we can all agree that going to the big box stores to get those things is not really the right way to protect the investment of in the future, in our children, in our grandchildren. But for whatever reason, if we go around looking at our household pantries, we'll find continuously a bunch of use and misuse of things that are challenging any kind of progress that we might have made. So I just wanted to clarify all of these things in a way that helped to, help to point in the direction of, yes, I'm multitasking. Yes, I'm doing a couch to 5K to marathon successfully. And yes, I do continue to present videos on the couch, as well as on the trails, as well as whenever I happen to have time to share some good insight. So for those who appreciate that, thank you so much. For the people who don't appreciate it, don't forget you can always unsubscribe. You don't have to continuously watch for my videos to see if I'm talking about something that's relevant to you. You already know it's relevant to you, and that's how it is. Again, the world has two things. There's something that believes in truth, and then there's something that's here to kill, steal, and destroy. And those two elements are so different, but also so similar. It's just that one is egocentrically driven. So hope that makes sense. Thanks again for subscribing. Until next time, peace, love, and all that old school stuff.